Hi there, welcome to a new episode of An Ordinary Review with PJ. In today's episode, I'm going to review the movie The Batman. Now I'm sure you're wondering, why another Batman movie? What would interest you to go and see another Batman movie? Well, I had the same thoughts. But then, I went to see this movie for two reasons. Number one, because of the director Matt Reeves. I liked his vision and the treatment that he gave to the Planet of the Apes movies. He directed two of them. And then, whatever I read about the Batman intrigued me. Because this Batman is not about the origin story. It's about a gritty, dark thriller. A detective thriller. And that kind of intrigued me. And I said, okay, why not? Go and see it. So here's my review of The Batman, starring Robert Patinson in the role of Batman, Zoe Kravitz, Jeffery Wright, Andy Serkis, Colin Farrell, an unrecognizable Colin Farrell as Penguin, Paul Dano, and Peter Skarsgård. This version of The Batman is a very dark, intense, gritty movie. Quite unlike the previous versions of Batman that we have seen. In fact, as you see this movie, you come to realize that the previous ones have almost caricaturish portrayal of the primary characters. And I guess that happens with evolution of time. As these movies, the old movies that you see now, you find them caricaturish. Of course, we enjoyed the movies when they came out then. But I think the time that passes on and the way the story is told changes, and I think that's what is reflected in this movie. This movie is really, really dark and intense, and that is what is happening with the DC universe. DC universe is getting really, really dark. Quite unlike the Marvel universe, which is all about this big bang, end of the world scenarios, lot of action, good sense of humor. DC is quite the opposite. It's dark, very little sense of humor. In fact, this movie has no sense of humor at all. Robert Patinson doesn't smile even once in this movie. It's that dark. And I guess that's a formula that works for DC. Because Batman, if you really look at it, inherently is a very sad character. It's a character who lost his parents, is out to avenge their death, and then he takes on trying to solve the problems of crime in Gotham City. So he's really dealing with this, almost breaking down city which has a lot of crime, and he just wants to get rid of the crime. And what's shown in this movie is that he's not infallible. He makes errors. He also is not a superhero. He's actually a person who's trying to eliminate crime, but he knows that he cannot eliminate crime. If he tries to stop one crime, something else will come up. So he knows his limitations, but then he's out there to help remove crime. And that's because he's doing out of anger. He's doing out of vengeance. In this movie, Batman is angry. Robert Pattinson has portrayed this Batman very, very well. You can see the anger in his eyes. He's wearing the scowl, so you can't see his face all the time. But whenever you look at his eyes, there is a sense of sadness and anger in those eyes. And I think his portrayal of Batman is really, really top-notch. His walk, and his body language personifies the anger and sadness that he carries. Beautifully done. Well supported by Zoe Kravitz, who plays the Catwoman. Now, we have seen Anne Hathaway as Catwoman in Christopher Nolan's version, which itself was quite entertaining, but this one is at a different level. Here, Zoe Kravitz, she's a very fine actress. We last saw her in Big Little Lies, the series which starred Nicole Kidman, and she played a beautiful character there. She has a certain sense of energy and certain sense of vulnerability that comes across in as she portrays Catwoman, and that energy is quite enigmatic in this movie, and I think you enjoy her performance. And she's on par. In fact, in some scenes, she's actually better than Robert Patinson as she portrays her character of Catwoman. Very interesting indeed. Quite intense. Not as dark as a Batman character, but certainly something that you look forward to as you watch her. Every time she's on the screen, you enjoy her performance. Jeffrey Wright plays the Commissioner Gordon, and of course, he does a good job. He's a great actor, and he does a equally good job as much as we saw Gary Oldman play in the earlier Nolan series. But the surprise package of this movie are two characters who are the villains in this movie. Number one is Penguin, played by Colin Farrell. he is absolutely unrecognizable. You do not or you cannot actually figure out unless someone has told you that Colin Farrell is playing that character. Now he's a slimy guy who is into this crime syndicate, and he really does a good job. But I think his characterization is beautifully done. But the real star of this movie and the intensity that character brings is the character of Riddler. Now this is very, very different from the caricaturish character of Riddler that was played by Jim Carrey in the earlier Batman movie. In this, the Riddler is actually avenging. He's out to go after the elite who he thinks have betrayed the population of Gotham. He's an orphan, so he feels when he was in the orphanage, he was betrayed. All the promises that were done to support them were not done. So he's out to take a vengeance. So in a lot of ways, as you see this movie, you realize that Batman and Riddler are two sides of the same coin. They're out there to take vengeance. Batman is coming from a place where he felt that his parents were killed, and he wants to take the vengeance on people who commit crime, and he wants to free the city of crime. Riddler comes from the place where he feels that he was betrayed, and many like him were betrayed in the city by the elite, and he wants to eliminate the elite. So they're kind of trying to find the same battle, but the methods are different. Riddler has taken a more drastic method of killing people. That's why he has to be stopped, and Batman is trying to do the same, but he tries to eliminate crime. That's the really interesting facet of this movie, and how a cat and mouse games goes on between Riddler and the Batman. Riddler is leaving clues as he is eliminating this elite, and Batman has to now think and try to be ahead of him to kind of stop him and capture him. Now Paul Dano plays this character of Riddler, and he does a fabulous job. He looks, his looks betray him. He looks as a very, very simple guy, but then there is a very evil mind that is sticking behind that simple facade. A little bit of characterization, I would say, sounds very similar. His voice sounds very similar to the character of Bane that was played by Tom Hardy in a Nolan Batman series. He wears this mask, and the voice that comes out of the mask, you kind of get a feeling that it is very similar to what Tom Hardy did. But then Paul Dano's characterization of Riddler is really beautiful. And the scenes that they have, the Batman and Riddler, the scenes that they have together are electric. You really enjoy their exchange. So overall, I would say this is a very, very gritty, dark movie. Doesn't have too much action. It doesn't have the big bang action. There is only one car chase scene that comes into this movie. Otherwise, most of the action is fist fights. No big bang action as we have seen in the earlier Batman movies or any other superhero movies. In fact, I would not even call this a superhero movie, because here the Batman is not really a superhero. He's just trying to be a vigilante. He's just trying to be someone who's trying to help the city eliminate crime, but he's really not exhibiting that he is unbeatable or cannot be defeated. So I would say it's a very, very realistic version of the Batman, something that I enjoyed. And I'm sure if you're looking for something which is more real, more dark and gritty, and not go and see it like a superhero movie, you will also enjoy The Batman by Matt Reeves. So go ahead and check it out in theaters. Thank you for watching my reviews. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. As I said, you can also listen in to my reviews on Spotify or Apple Podcast if you are not able to see them on YouTube. But do keep sharing your feedback, your suggestions. I will look forward to bring a lot more interesting reviews for all of you. Keep smiling. Till next time. Bye-bye.